and welcome back to Bels Books. Today I'm going to be talking about A View from the Bridge. This is part 2 of my study guide for this Arthur Miller play, and if you enjoyed the first half I would definitely recommend watching this one because it says all the stuff about Greek tragedy that I couldn't fit into the last one because that would have made it ridiculously long. So yeah, I really hope you did enjoy this video, and I would recommend going back and watching the other one first if you are using this one as a kind of study guide, because they are very cohesive and all the information you need to know about Arthur Miller's play, themes, characters, setting, background, is in the first video, and this is part 2. So in this video I'm going to be talking only about A View from the Bridge as a tragedy, so specifically a Greek tragedy. So I'm going to be thinking about how different aspects of the play relate to Greek tragedy, and I would recommend taking notes on this. I don't have a ton of quotations for this section, but I would recommend finding your own quotations because that is how you're going to solidify the knowledge of the play in your head, and in order to achieve the best possible mark you are going to need to know quotations, not verbatim, not word for word, but you will need to know of quotations and be able to paraphrase things from the play. So I would recommend going through and doing that. So first of all, how do the characters relate to Greek tragic characters? So we've got Alfieri, who is the narrator. In modern terms, he's the narrator, but in ancient Greek terms, he's the chorus. Alfieri is linked to Italy in the opening scene of the play as he compares himself to a lawyer in Caesar's time. The Romans were very culturally similar to ancient Greeks and imitated their theatre a great deal. So Alfieri, as the chorus, supplies the audience with background information and insight into the action, while also serving as a theatrical device to indicate the passing of time. So for example, in the opening speech, the prologue in ancient Greek terms, he gives background information. He compares himself to a lawyer in Caesar's time, powerless to watch as events play out. The thought comes that in Caesar's year in Calabria, perhaps, or on the cliff at Syracuse, another lawyer, quite differently dressed, heard the same complaint and sit there as powerless as I and watched it run its bloody course. The irony of this comparison is that at the end of the play, Alfieri actually has power. He resolves the situation to the best of his abilities. He gets Marco and Rodolfo out of jail and helps Rodolfo marry Catherine, at least before Marco and Eddie act in a way that ruins the happy ending Alfieri has set up. Additionally, Alfieri, the chorus, speaks at the beginning of the second act, and his kind of presence there indicates that time has passed for the audience. Finally, in his closing speech, the epilogue in ancient Greek terms, Alfieri casts judgment on Eddie and says that the fate that God has decided has caused these events and that it is unstoppable no matter what the audience or any of the characters on stage wanted to happen instead. So Eddie, the protagonist, he is the tragic hero, and this can be demonstrated by looking at the components of a Greek tragedy. So first of all, you have hubris, which is excessive pride, and this is really demonstrated in Eddie, who cares a lot about his reputation and what people think about him, especially Catherine and Beatrice, but also what other men think about him. He likes to control members of his family, and when men laugh at Rodolfo, Eddie thinks that his reputation is damaged by this and gets angry. Not because people are making fun of his family, but because Eddie's proud of himself and his family and doesn't want other men to kind of take the mick. So another moment where kind of Eddie's pride is demonstrated is Eddie tries to lift a chair he cannot, but Marco can, and this ignites anger between the two. There's a kind of like fight situation. And it really demonstrates how he's excessively prideful, and so much pride in terms of who he is and who his family is and what he thinks he's capable of, only separates himself from the people around him. So Hamasha. Hamasha is the fatal flaw of a Greek tragic hero, and it's what causes their downfall. So alongside this excessive pride of Eddie's, he's proud of. He's proud of himself, he's proud of America, he's proud of his family. You also have his fatal flaw, and his fatal flaw is his obsession with Catherine. He's overly attached and he's overprotective. You can see this from the opening scene. He criticizes her for trying to act like a woman and then guilts her by mentioning his dead mother. by her dead mother. He accuses Rodolfo of taking Catherine away from him, and he claims to be her uncle, not her father. He accuses Rodolfo of taking Catherine away from him, and his care and love for Catherine over the course of the play only drives her away from him when she could have maintained her familial relationship with him alongside her new marriage to Rodolfo. But his actions, both his aggression towards the couple and him turning the brothers into immigration, push her away and even actually cause his death. Eddie says, "I want you to be with a different kind of people. If you're going to get out of here, then get out. Don't go practically in the same kind of neighborhood." This quote demonstrates that he really does want the best of her, but he's so excessive in the way that he tries to get this for her that he basically ruins everything. He kills himself, basically. So you then have the anagnorisis, which is the moment in a tragedy where the hero understands the situation. So it's interesting to think about this. Does Eddie actually reach this? He does seem to understand by the end of the play that what he has done is wrong, and he does seem to have regret for it and kind of wish for forgiveness and wish for something different. And you can see this after he turns the brothers into immigration. However, it's the end of the play, and there's no chance for him to have any form of change after this. So perhaps Miller could be saying that it's too late for Eddie to ever be redeemed. The final component of Greek tragedy is catharsis, which is the feeling for the audience at the end of the tragedy when they are purged of emotion. So the point is that something so sad happens that the audience can experience this sadness and get rid of their own sadness, which is unrelated to the play, their own sadness and unhappiness, by experiencing someone else's. And this is a question that you need to think about. So when you read the play, what sadness did you kind of feel as it ended? Do you think it was cathartic? Do you think there was a release of emotion for you? You are the best person to answer that question because you have read the play, and everyone's answer is going to be slightly different, and that's okay because it's not going to be definitive. But you should mention in an essay about how, in an essay comparing A View from the Bridge to a Greek tragedy, you should mention catharsis and what you think about it in the play, and whether or not you think there was actually catharsis for Arthur Miller. Whether or not you think Arthur Miller actually wrote any catharsis for the audience into the play. So there are two types of other tragedy I want to quickly mention. So first of all, medieval tragedy. In medieval tragedy, fate was really important, especially the idea that God decides fate. So in medieval times, people were religious and they believed that God would bring them good fortune. So for example, Marco and Rodolfo are more religious than Eddie, and so even though they committed the crime, which is their illegal immigration into the United States, Eddie was punished because, unlike Marco and Rodolfo, he didn't trust in God. And the other type of tragedy I want to talk about is modern tragedy, in which the protagonist is a common man who is a relatable figure, like Eddie, just wants the best, hard-working American citizen, and he tries to do good but is thwarted by evil, and he is thwarted by the events that come around him. In which A View from the Bridge relates to Greek tragedy, and also a couple little extra aspects of tragedy that you might want to think about or throw into any essay that you decide to write. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it's told you a lot about View from the Bridge, and I hope that you can go away from it and kind of know where to start. Because the most important thing about writing an essay is that you have background knowledge of the themes, the ideas, and everything about it. The second most important thing about writing an essay is that you have the quotations. So I really encourage you to go away and you to make a bank of quotations related to all the different ideas. I encourage you to take notes on the ideas and things that I have talked about in this video, because I am 100% certain that it will help you come your exams. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment and subscribe if you did, because then I'll know that you liked it and you wanted more. And if you want a study guide on something else, let me know, because I would be more than happy to make one for something specific.